on now to the conflict between Israel and Hamas and war of words that has been surrounding it, because US President Joe Biden has made his strongest criticism yet of his Israeli counterpart.
He accused Benjamin Netanyahu of hurting Israel more than helping it, and that he should pay more attention to the innocent lives which are being lost. Now, joining us is former NATO commander Chris Parry. Chris, good morning. Always lovely to have you on. It's interesting, isn't it? He won't come out and stop the weapons to Netanyahu. He's building a port to create aid. But Biden, ever since that State of the Union address, seems to be getting stronger and stronger, because the critics have said, you haven't been over foreign policy. But Netanyahu, we all know what everybody thinks about what they're seeing now on October the 7th. It's not about that. It's turning into a situation where one man, even amongst his own people, is dead set on a venture, and people are losing faith. Would that be accurate? Belief?
Well, it depends on the position you take, isn't it? And the position you see things from. Right now, the Israelis, as far as I can see, are the only ones with a plan. Everybody keeps saying ceasefire, but nobody knows what happens after the ceasefire. And until people can come up with a better plan that the Israelis find acceptable and makes them feel secure in the short and medium term, Netanyahu will actually have free license to do what he wants. I think what we have to recognise is that we're in an election year in the United States, and that President Biden has to actually cater for the left wing of his party and quite a significant proportion of the people who might vote for him. And I think this latest sort of clash in rhetoric reflects that.
And Chris, of course, Netanyahu doesn't have free rein to do what he wants. He is bound by various conventions, etc. What are his obligations towards the Gazan people at the moment in terms of providing aid to areas that have been occupied?
Well, if you look at most conventions, it's the Geneva Conventions that really sort of govern these things. People assume there are a lot of sort of obligations that don't actually exist. Israel is at war. It's fighting a terrorist opponent who are hiding behind the civilian infrastructure and also the people of Gaza. And although the Israelis aren't allowed deliberately to target civilians, I'm afraid to say that civilians and the civilian infrastructure are part of the context in which the Israelis have to operate. Now, you know, I'm as critical as anybody that would see anything that would go against civilians. But the fact of life is the Israelis are sacrificing their own soldiers in order to be careful that they don't kill civilians. But the fact of life is, in a conflict like this, with all the dislocation and all the other issues that occur, and it's everything from sort of Hamas trying to control the food supply through to, dare I say it, fake images, which the international news agencies aren't too fussy about publishing, oddly enough. You're seeing a huge sort of battle between what is really going on and what is being put out there as information.
It's really interesting, isn't it? It strikes me that it's not going to go away as well. You know, we were talking earlier about, you know, you said something then. Nick and I were talking about this last week. What's the end game? I mean, you know, we were saying at 6 o'clock, Chris, that certain leaders, Cameron, Biden, Blinken, are now talking to other parts of the Israeli government, maybe surreptitiously to put pressure on Netanyahu. I mean, when we started this whole debacle, this dreadful thing happened on October the 7th, and rightly everybody stood up and said, this is absolutely appalling. I think most people at that point, Chris, and you said it just now, what's the end game, believed that Israel wanted a two-state solution. Halfway through it, Netanyahu, of course, said that isn't his aim. I don't see what the end game is. I get Israel want the hostages back. I get they want to end that terrorist organisation. But my point to you earlier was the longer this goes on, as the days go by, that becomes more and more painful. For genuine Israeli people, they just want the hostages home. Our own Vanessa Feltz was out yesterday at a march trying to get these hostages home. She doesn't want the humanitarian crisis. She wants Jewish people who were taken back with their families.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Jeremy, about 2 days after 7th of October, we had a discussion. And I said to you, I think the two-state solution is over. They're going to have to go somewhere else. The key issue here, and everybody seems to be missing it, is what makes Israel feel secure. because nothing in the rhetoric right now gives any indication of how Israel is going to feel secure in future. What is not going to happen is Israel is not going to allow 7th of October to happen again, either in the south or in the north with Hezbollah. And the key to this situation, the end game, is what provides that security and assurance to Israelis that they can live in security in the face of some fairly powerful rhetoric and aggressive language.
Chris, thank you so much, my friend. Looking rather smart this morning there in Bromley, with your hair polished or brushed even. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.